Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of The Dave Show. Today we are going to be looking at Snow White and the absolute flop that it is in the box office. I do not know why Disney and other studios keep on doubling and tripling down on this woke nonsense. The agenda, or I should say the message, it is not working anymore, and people don't want to hear it. So they need to shift gears, but I don't know how long that's going to take. But anyways, hey, let's take a look. Let's do it.
The Snow White story has now reached nuclear levels of bad, as the fallout from this film's failure is going exactly like I predicted in my last two videos on this movie too. I said when the dust would settle that Hollywood producers and even the actors that are a part of this very terrible movie objectively would just end up assembling like the Avengers to take down Rachel Zegler like she's their own Thanos, to shift the blame of this entire failure solely on her very small, frail shoulders.
You know, the thing is, Ziegler, Rachel on her own I think she's a quite striking woman. She's a good looking woman. But when you're talking about Snow White and what Snow White traditionally looks like and is described as, she is definitely not Snow White. I don't know who cast her to be Snow White. Maybe her voice is good. I'm sure it is. But especially when you compare her to Gal Gadot, I'm sorry, she is not more beautiful than Gal Gadot, and I think most men and ladies out there would come to that same conclusion really quick. So the casting is just all wrong on this, and I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
And that's exactly what is happening now. So let me tell you something. Let's get to it. Firstly, from Variety, inside Disney's Snow White fiasco, death threats, beefed up security, and a social media guru for Rachel Zegler. The article opens explaining how on August 12th, 2024, mere days after Disney's D23 event, that Rachel Zegler took to Instagram to show her millions of followers a video where she promoted the freedom of Palestine. Yeah, I'm not kidding. That's how this article opens. Look, guys, it's right there. Of all the things, yep, they started with this. This post Zegler made amassed around 9 million views during that time in a short period. And according to Variety, the producers at Disney were horrified and confused why their movie's lead actor was out here making political statements without their say-so. Apparently, Disney was so horrified by Zegler's comments about freeing Palestine that Mark Platt, that's this guy right here on screen, he's like a really big Hollywood producer for this movie and many others in the past. But anyway, he personally flew out to New York City to meet with Zegler to allegedly explain to her why she isn't allowed to make political comments, and then demanded that she deleted the video and all of these pro-Palestine comments from Instagram on Disney's behalf. Apparently, Zegler, according to Variety sources, has also been a thorn in the side of Hollywood producers since even West Side Story, which was the first film she ever starred in, by the way, won a Golden Globe for it too. And Variety said that Zegler's Free Palestine comments led to Gal Gadot, who obviously plays the evil queen, to get a massive spike in death threats online, which then led to Disney accusing Zegler of being the reason why they had to now spend more money during Snow White's publicity tour to hire more security to keep Gal Gadot safe from pro-Palestine supporters. So, a bit of background in case you don't know, Gal Gadot is Israeli, so obviously I don't need to explain how and why. This is a...
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh, I totally didn't even think about that. Yes, Gal Gadot is totally Israeli. And Zegler is taking the position of defending the Palestinians. Oh my gosh, it's even worse than ever. It's worse than I thought.
Well, a Molotov cocktail of nuclear makings for this entire thing. I think we can all agree on that.
Funny.
And we all know that that whole war is ongoing and people are dying. I'm not here to tell you which side to side with or anything like that. Because after all, I'm just a brain in a jar with an internet connection who has trained chimpanzees working around the clock to write and edit my videos for me. You can think however you want on the subject. I'm not going to tell you how to feel here, but one insider did tell Variety. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions as far as what that meant for the film, for Gal, for anyone. So, as you can see, this Variety hit piece, as many are calling it, is being released likely on Disney's behalf to blame the failure of Snow White solely on Rachel Zegler and her political comments.
Well, that's not true at all. I mean, the political comments didn't help, but it was an awful move. The screenplay was awful. The writing was awful. The animation of the dwarfs, that's a horrifying mess in and of itself. There were a lot of things that were wrong with this film, but Zegler's whiny, entitled rants online did not help at all, for sure.
Which, let's be real, to a degree, that is true. I mean, we need to realize this isn't the only politically supercharged comment that she's made in the past during this whole Snow White thing either. Of course, Zegler also said this when Donald Trump won the election via Instagram as well. I find myself speechless in the midst of this, another 4 years of hatred, leading us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. Leading us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leading us towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I'm here with you. To cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. Big yikes, yeah.
Yeah, I did a video on this when it broke, so I'll try to put the link up above wherever that is. All right, let's get to it.
Like I said, Rachel Zegler just kind of pissed off every single aisle of the political elite, pretty much. Yeah, it would be one thing if she just said the Trump thing and then, just angered the right-wing people. But the reality is that
that's like over half of the voting population. So that's still horrible, destructive damage that she would have caused, that she did cause because she put it out. So she's just stepping on everyone's toes.
She also angered the left with her Free Palestine movement comments too. This all meant that Zegler, in one fell swoop, managed to piss off both wings of the bird, and now this whole turkey, it's cooked, fellas.
Let me tell you, the hell with this shame.
And alright, I don't think Zegler's comments are only to blame for this movie's failure. I think the film is just really bad, and people are kind of sick of these remakes pointlessly being made as well. After all, the film currently sits at a 1.8 out of 10 from scores. To say that Snow White is cooked despite the backlash, that would be an understatement.
Ouch.
It's lower than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh, gosh!
And this film has made abysmal amounts of money considering how much was spent not only on its initial shoot, but the reshoots and everything else to fix this film too.
And all the animations and just all the digital work. That's a ton of money.
According to Variety sources, Snow White opened worldwide to $82 million.
Worldwide, $82 million. That is horrible. This thing probably had to have cost like 600 or 700 million easily. That's just probably for the production, and then you have to, I guess you have to equal that amount of money for the publicity, so you have to like recoup basically double what you've spent just to recoup like to a zero balance. This movie is cooked.
Abysmally bad for a film that costed somewhere in the $250 to $350 million range. But
okay, so I was pretty close. That was totally out of my butt. I was just totally guessing on that. So I was a little high, but in the ballpark for sure.
It gets worse. The film actually made $34 million less than the second Joker movie that was critically panned by both fans and critics and
Wow.
bombed at the box office last year. But to make matters worse, not only did Snow White make less than Joker 2, it also, according to Variety, costed $70 million more to make than Joker 2 as well. So yes, this thing was more expensive and made even less than the movie where Joker gets his holes resized by guards. Yeah, it's bleak, I know. Variety then got this quote from an executive at a rival studio who said this about Snow White's massive underperformance. You can't say that a live-action remake of the most iconic film in the vault that cost $270 million and has been reshot multiple times? Opening to $50 million is okay. The math does not work. That movie should be a billion-dollar movie. They're right, by the way. If this movie had zero controversies, even despite its quality, Snow White should have been a mega blockbuster.
And if the casting was done better. I mean, Gal Gadot as the prince or as the queen, I think like the way she looks is spot on. You know, her acting isn't all that great. Sorry, Gal. But that casting I think was good, look wise. But my gosh, Snow White was just that. It was like that person needs to be fired. I'm sorry, like relegated back to an associate position because they don't know what the heck they're doing. Ay.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars being made opening weekend alone. It's Snow White, for God's sakes. It's the movie that put Disney on the map. So for this to happen, heads are rightfully going to roll in every single direction following its failure. Some have said that the attacks on Zegler's comments are not fair, since Gal Gadot has made comments herself about the whole Israel-Palestine thing and Hamas and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, but she's Israeli. She kind of has skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? She has family and friends that live in Israel that, and well, I'm not going to get into it, but she definitely has skin in the game, whereas Rachel has zero, I'm pretty sure. No skin whatsoever. So, yeah, Gal Gadot's comments, I think they can slide a little bit. A lot.
Yet Gal Gadot was not reined in the same way that Zegler was, which social media users are calling a blatant rules for thee but not for me, which, as a guy who tends to lean more right, I just gotta say, well, first time, huh? But let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something else, man.
You see, it gets worse, because Variety then drops the lore, showing that Rachel Zegler was allegedly problematic from the start. This is a bit long, but let me read it for you guys. The Disney-Zegler standoffs underscore the challenge Hollywood studios face as they attempt to rein in stars who court controversy on social media. For her part, Gal Gadot kept her comments on geopolitics limited to offering support for the civilian hostages taken during the October 7th Hamas attack, and did not mix that message with the promotion of the film. Zegler had already strained nerves at both the studio and Steven Spielberg's Amblin partners when she complained on social media that she wasn't invited to the 2022 Oscar party at the star of Best Picture nominee West Side Story, a film distributed by Disney. Sources say she had just begun production on Snow White in London, and Sean Bailey, then president of Walt Disney Studios Motion Picture Production, declined to cut her loose for the telecast. After Zegler aired her grievances publicly, the Academy provided her with a ticket even though she wasn't nominated. So, this now starts to paint a picture that also doesn't make Zegler look good at all. Let me explain. So, she made her first movie, West Side Story, and then did Snow White right after. This was the start of Zegler's ascendancy to A-list pretty much, and then she was angry that she couldn't go to the party and award ceremony while she was filming another movie. I understand why you would be disappointed because you don't get to celebrate your first win, so to speak, at a big event like the Oscars, but you were working on another movie at the time. And
on a movie being paid tremendous amounts of money. So stop your whining. Give me a break. These people, they're so elitist. They're so entitled.
I would wager that Disney was paying you millions already to star in their new big-budget, no-holds-barred remake of Snow White, for God's sakes. So Zegler not only came off as greedy and impulsive, but childish too. Yeah, this is not a good look at all. So it seems that anyway, that Zegler has had a chip on her very small shoulders for a long time now, and for no good reason either. Remember that Steven Spielberg made this girl into who she was. Without him, nobody would really know or care about Rachel in the first place. She was given the literal golden ticket by the movie billionaire who's made plenty of blockbusters in the past already. And anyone would kill for the opportunity given to Rachel at such a young age. To be given the literal keys to the Hollywood kingdom like this, it would be considered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for most people, and you should make it your best effort to not screw things up at all for yourself. If I was Rachel Zegler, I would just stay humble and just realize that this whole magical journey could end at any moment for her. It's sort of like YouTube, you know? Sure, your success is based on your skill, creativity, and whatnot, but there's no point in denying that luck does have a big factor in you making it on YouTube or not. And why would you spit in the faces of viewers who watch you because you suddenly feel like you're better than them? I would never do that. I'm just happy to be here. You should never let your success get to your head and make you think that you're somehow better than everyone else around you. Success is like a fart. It's loud, it may be stinky, but it can be over so quickly too. That was a terrible analogy. I completely fumbled that, but you know what?
Let me tell you something, man.
None of this helps
He likes talking about farts. What can you say?
Zegler in the slightest, despite the supposed support from people online. Because ultimately, whether people support online or not, the reality is that these movies get made by these producers and not by the fans. And unfortunately, they get ultimate say on whether these people keep getting work. So while Zegler might be happy that some Twitter stan accounts are praising her now, the reality is she is going to be ultimately blacklisted by Hollywood no matter what happens here, because unfortunately for her, there's nothing that she did or that Disney has done that Zegler could sue them for really here. They're not removing her from a series or a movie. She's still in Snow White. That's canon. She's there front and center. This isn't like Gina Carano, for example, who got removed from Mandalorian for her comments, although it is rich that Zegler is now finding herself in the somewhat exact position Gina was in due to her own comments now too. As you can see here, where Zegler back in 2020 when Gina Carano was fired by Disney and is now suing them, and rightfully so, tried to dunk on Gina and act like Gina speaking her mind on COVID vaccines and such was a big no-no and that she was somehow morally superior at the time. But oh, how the things have turned now. Rachel is actually in far worse water than Gina now 5 years removed, but this is what I mean. Never assume that the things you laugh at can't happen at you, because life can come at you fast. And if there's one thing I know about coming fast, is that so too can the public sway their opinions on you as well. Because it now seems that following all of this, that social media people have resoundingly started to change their tune on Rachel Zegler in a more positive light. Well, somewhat. Here's one person on Twitter who went viral for their tweet about Zegler. Rachel Zegler had one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood fly out specifically to ask her to delete a tweet in support of Palestine, and she refused. More backbone and integrity at 23 than 99% of powerful people in this country, a queen. I mean, fair enough, I guess, but will those thoughts and prayers really help her in the future? Will it pay her bills, pay the way to future successes? Because it's very obvious that anyone who supports Palestine gets raked through the coals when it comes to Hollywood. And look, I'm not saying that this is a good thing either. It's very obvious that Hollywood has a political bias when it comes to certain things in the world. And if you want to be in the right crowd, so to speak, within Hollywood, it's best to act like you're a liberal and that you're also pro-Israel if we're being honest. Another user would say this: I feel bad for Zegler, who doesn't deserve this. She was 20 years old when they cast her. She has median left political views influenced by her Hollywood friends and handlers, but is too young to know she should not talk about that to the press. She has a gorgeous voice, but has spent the majority of her career being defined by this corporate boondoggle, that's a word. Nothing she could have done or not done would have fixed this disaster, and now a bunch of cowardly, flailing, middle manager studio PR hacks are trying to throw this young woman under the bus. Disgraceful. Well, here's the thing, right? Yeah, she's young, she's 23, but the point of the matter is that when you're in a mega $1 million in the making blockbuster, it's kind of on you to realize that your actions will have consequences. Saying that she's too young is also kind of ridiculous. You're 23. You're a young adult. You have at least some ability to understand what not to say and what to say based on what you're dealing with here. Let's not act like Rachel is a 5-year-old here. She isn't. She's a grown woman. So trying to play victim and act like this is somehow someone else's fault when she wrote the things that she wrote and then hit send is kind of crazy, not gonna lie. There's no way you can really swindle this to somehow not make it her fault, because again, she didn't only piss off the high-profile Jewish producers in Hollywood. She also pissed off the right-wing crowd too, which makes up an overwhelming amount of America and Canada too, as well as other places. Had she just pissed off one of those sides, maybe this ends up differently, but if you want a mental image, Zegler was on a tightrope, and she pretty much decided to birth both ends and is now upset that she's falling at terminal velocity.
Hey, I remember when movies made me feel things.
Movies still make me feel things. I feel regret most of the time.
Again, I personally don't feel any sympathy for her because of her
funny.
comments saying that Trump shouldn't know peace and conservatives are all evil people. Because whenever someone says something like that, it's just coded words for we hate you, we want you dead, but also you're obligated to give us your money too. And it is a growing problem that keeps persisting for Hollywood and Disney, especially the longer the time goes on. They've already been bleeding for years now because they keep trying to alienate the conservative crowd at every turn, and it's clearly not working for them. And it's the same in the video game space too. You gain nothing from alienating or attacking all sides like this.
You'd think that would be common sense, like Business 101, right? Business 99, I don't know, Business 98? Jeez Louise. Customers, they're king, right? Well, they say cash is king, but the customer's always right. And Disney has been ignoring the bulk of their customers for a very long time now.
You'll just eventually make yourself alone on an island with nothing but your own misery. And I think in a year's time, when the dust has settled on all of this, that Rachel will realize the consequences of her own actions and will understand how she had to learn the hard way that being a political activist does nothing but divide people and just make them hate you. And she also did the cardinal sin of insulting the side of the aisle that was on her side too, and was also responsible for lifting her small body into the potential A-list party of actors and influencers. But now I think, based on her comments and actions and inability to be accountable for her own choices, she will just fade into the crowd until eventually she'll just become regular like everyone else. And I think when that reality settles in, she's going to be hit with an insane level of depression and anxiety that will likely take her years to overcome. And again, having anxiety in your 20s, first time, good luck. That's all I gotta say, because from one person to another, we all know when you first get that wave of depression and anxiety for the first time in your life, oh my god, dude, is it awful. But anyway, maybe she will star in things here or there, but it won't be in the leading role probably, like some of my pals on Flashcast once said. At best, Rachel will just play the best friend to the main character or something else going forward, if even that. But if you need to realize that Hollywood is like a literal Game of Thrones, and the likelihood that other actors will even want to be associated with her when it comes to projects is also going to be a massive thing to jump through too, because why would these actors who are all lying about their political allegiances, what they think, and everything else already, and are only really agreeing with and saying the things they need to say to stay employed and relevant in today's time, are you seriously believing that these people will throw away their chance at fame away to publicly support Rachel now? It's not really going to happen. Hollywood is like a really expensive high school, and these people are the popular kids, and the last thing these popular types want is to be associated with someone who could tarnish their reputation or image in the future, which is why I personally think if Rachel ever does make it back to Hollywood somehow, it'll only be in limited roles, in much smaller things, and she will likely never headline a movie of this magnitude ever again.
I don't know about that. I think she will. But I think she has a lot of growing up to do, for sure. And she's going to need to prove that she's mature enough to handle such a role. Honestly, I've not seen West Side Story with her in it, and I'm not going to see Snow White, so I don't really know how her acting ability is. Obviously, everyone says she's got a great voice. I'm not denying that at all. But I don't know. I think it's a little harsh to say she'll never have a leading role again, but I think it's going to be a while.
Maybe. I don't know. And you can bet your sweet cheeks that Disney will probably blacklist her from literally everything going forward too. And when you get blacklisted by Disney, that does trickle down to so many other studios and projects too, and then they won't want to work with Rachel, because if they do, it might be seen as supporting her beliefs or views, and then that'll also tarnish their reputation. And yada yada yada, it just keeps going, so this is why most people will just put their hands up and go, nope, I'm not touching that, we'll just hire somebody else instead. And here's also Rachel posting a video of herself watching Snow White in theaters, and people pointed out that it's very obvious that she is in a very empty theater watching this. Which I mean, yeah, again, you can support her Palestine comments or her anti-Trump things all you want. At the end of the day, the failure of this movie is going to be placed on Rachel Zegler and Rachel alone. She even got quoted saying that her and Gal Gadot were not on speaking terms anymore because during the Oscars, Rachel said that Gal was like a professional pageant queen. And apparently this comment angered
Wow.
Gal, and that was the straw that broke the back, I guess, for her, and now she even wants nothing to do with her now. Look, the whole thing is box office poison, fellas. There's no way that Disney can spin this story to convince people to now go see Snow White. This film will be lucky to even make $200 million, if even that, which means that Disney has yet again lost their pants on another movie at the box office again.
You know, I don't know if it also premiered on Disney Plus, but if it did not, it's going to be there real quick. I'm pretty sure of it. I don't think Snow White's going to last in the theaters very long.
Some users are pointing out, as this one states, published within the same hour by the same publication, unbelievably gross narrative being pushed here. Rachel Zegler is braver and more talented than most who have been in this industry for decades and deserves so much better than this. So Variety and Disney are now being accused of running hit pieces, which I mean you don't even need to accuse them because that's literally what is happening here. And I think the ultimate "this is so over before it even began" moment is this image right here being shared on social media, where crews are already taking down the Snow White
See?
promo murals in places like California, and the
See?
movie just came out, by the way. Disney already knows that this is so over for them, and I think it'll be a long, long time before Disney ever decides to remake Snow White ever again. And going forward, I can only surmise that Disney will make it mandatory in their contracts with actors that they are never allowed to speak about political movements or attack fans going forward ever again.
Well, and plus, the big thing is they need to make, if they're going to redo the story of Snow White, they need to redo it, like how it is. And not all this girl boss power BS, you know, and like making the men in the film irrelevant and stupid. They need to just redo it and rewrite it the way that it's basically is right now, just modernizing, I guess, or whatever, but get rid of the stupid wokeness, get rid of the stupid girl boss power, and just stick to what the story is in essence, and you'll have a hit. I mean, you're gonna have to cast it properly, but you would have a mega hit. A mega hit. They would recoup this money plus more. It would reach $1 billion easy if they did it right. This time they did it absolutely wrong in every facet that was possible. Yeah.
And personally, I think that's the best way to go about things. I don't care if even the actors in question attack liberals, just stop attacking people altogether. Stop attacking conservatives, liberals, anyone. If you're in a movie and you have so much to lose, just shut up. Just make the movie, say that you're thankful for being there, smile and wave like the penguins, and then get paid and move on.
Exactly. We don't care. We don't care. That, I think that time, that era of just resting, hinging on every little word a superstar says as gospel, that I think that's done.
This is why it's no coincidence that the actors who thrive the longest in Hollywood are also the same actors that oftentimes don't have social media accounts themselves. Or if they do, their accounts are just ran by their PR people anyways, like Elizabeth Olsen or Samuel Jackson.
Right.
Just don't do it. If I was an actor, which I'm not, because like I said, I'm actually just a brain in a jar twitching from time to time, I too would not have any personal accounts either. It's just not worth jeopardizing your career for some online swag or likes from people who aren't even supporting your movies anyway. I mean, clearly, look at the box office numbers. Those hundreds of thousands of people who like these tweets supporting Zegler, they're just gonna pirate the movie anyway. So I guess this all comes down to Rachel Zegler might become some woo-hoo, she did it, she owned the pro-Israel people. But in due time, it's just not going to do anything because Hollywood is already so corrupt and set in its ways that they will do anything and everything to subdue and destroy Rachel just to make an example out of her for other people. And this is a big reason why I find myself watching less and less movies and TV shows every single year, because once you see the propaganda behind a lot of it, it's impossible to unsee it. But good luck to Rachel Zegler, she's gonna need it, but now I think this is enough, so thank you for watching. What do you think? Let me know, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
All right, I think that was a good take, a good breakdown on Snow White and how horrible it is and just some of the big mistakes that they made. Oh boy, they had a literal gold mine on their hands, and they just flushed it right down the toilet. I don't understand. I don't understand. It's just so they could stay in tune with the message. Yay. Okay, well, hey, listen, if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, share, slap that bell around. And until the next episode, stay safe, know that you are loved and appreciated. And of course, have a great day.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear.